Lena stared at the message on her phone. We won't make it to your housewarming. Your sister needs some groceries. The text was from her mother, Helen. The words seemed to sit on the bright screen forever while a dull, familiar ache spread through Lena's chest. Part of her wanted to type everything she had never said. She wanted to write about the years of being ignored, about how it felt to always come second, about how this housewarming meant more to her than any birthday she had ever had. Her thumbs hovered over the screen, but nothing came out. In the end, she only wrote, "All good," and set the phone face down on the cool granite counter of her new kitchen. The silence in the wide-open room pressed in on her. This was supposed to be a happy day. She was 31, finally standing in a home she had designed and paid for herself. Outside, the Blue Ridge Mountains rose around the valley like calm, ancient guards. Inside, Lena stood alone with a short text message that said more about her family than any long speech ever could. She took a slow breath, knowing this tiny moment would be the start of something she could never fully undo. Her name was Lena Hayes, firstborn daughter in a small town 4 hours east of Asheville, North Carolina. In most families, being the first child meant extra pride, extra photos, extra stories. In Lena's family, it meant she was the trial run before her parents got the child they really wanted. That child was her younger sister, Bella, born 3 years after her. From the first day Bella came home from the hospital, people could not stop talking about how beautiful she was. "Look at those eyes," strangers would say to Helen in the grocery store. "She's perfect." Little Lena would stand nearby, holding the cat, invisible. As Bella grew, she glowed in every room, laughing easily, pulling people toward her like a magnet. Lena, on the other hand, loved books more than parties and quiet more than attention. She won spelling bees and science fairs, but the certificates usually ended up in a drawer. Bella had a rough day at school, Helen would say whenever Lena tried to share good news. "Let's not talk about you right now." That pattern, small at first, stretched over the years until it became the only way their family worked. By the time Lena turned 18, she no longer expected anyone at home to notice when she walked into a room. On the afternoon of the housewarming, the pattern appeared again in that simple text about groceries. Lena had invited her parents 3 weeks earlier. She had sent a long message with the address, driving directions, and a warm offer. "You can stay in the guest room so you won't have to drive back late," she had written. When Helen finally called, her voice had that distracted, half-absent sound Lena knew too well. "We'll see, honey," she had said. "You know how Bella is right now. She's not feeling great." In the background, Lena had heard Bella complaining about something small and vague. Lena had tried one more time. "It would mean a lot if you came, Mum," she had said quietly. "This house, it's important to me." Helen had sighed. "We'll do our best," she'd answered, in a way that already felt like no. Lena's father, Mark, never replied at all. Now, 6 hours before guests would arrive, Lena held the final answer in her hands. They had chosen Bella's grocery trip over Lena's new home. It hurt, but it was also terribly familiar, like a song she had heard 1,000 times before. It was always like this. Lena invited, they hesitated, Bella complained, and somehow Lena's hopes were the only thing cut out of the plan. She walked slowly through the house, letting her fingers slide along the cool stone of the counters and the smooth edge of the custom wood cabinets. Every detail in the place carried a memory. The glass wall in the great room that opened to the valley. The wide deck facing the sunset. The quiet office tucked under the stairs where she had already closed her first major deal. The house sat on 12 acres of mountain land, with floor-to-ceiling windows that made the sky feel close enough to touch. It was worth $4.5 million, and Lena had paid for it in cash. Her company, the one her parents barely understood, had made it possible. "She does something with houses," Helen usually told curious relatives, waving a hand like it was nothing special. They had never visited Lena's office, never met her team, never asked how she had gone from an entry-level job to owning her own real estate development firm. As Lena stood in the wide, sunlit kitchen, she realized they did not actually know who she had become. Somewhere in their minds, she was still the quiet girl who left home at 18 and simply disappeared. They had no idea that the girl who disappeared had built an empire in the shadows of these mountains. 3 days earlier, a crew from a popular home channel called Homestyle TV had arrived with cameras, cables, and steady, excited energy. They were filming a special on luxury mountain homes in the southeast, and Lena's property was one of 3 chosen. The producer, a lively woman named Carla, had clasped Lena's hands after the first walkthrough. "This place is magic," Carla had said. People are going to fall in love with it, and with you. They had spent hours recording shots of the house, the land, and Lena herself. She talked on camera about restoring old properties, about building in a way that respected the land instead of simply using it. That night, Lena had picked up her phone more than once to text her parents about the show. She had imagined her mother's surprised voice, her father's shocked silence. Each time, she put the phone back down. If they wanted to know my life, she had told herself in the empty living room, they would have asked before now. So she kept the news to herself, unsure if she was protecting her heart, making a quiet point, or both. The cameras would show the world a story her own family had never bothered to hear from her own mouth. By late afternoon, the sky outside had turned a softer blue, and the shadows from the trees reached across the deck. The doorbell rang, pulling Lena out of her thoughts. She opened the front door to see her best friend, Maya, juggling 3 huge flower arrangements and a box of candles. "Move, rich lady," Maya joked, stepping inside. "Your mountain palace needs color." Lena gave a small smile and took one of the vases from her. "They texted," she said quietly. "They are not coming. Bella needs groceries." Maya stopped walking and stared at her. "Groceries," she repeated. "For a grown woman." Lena handed her the phone. Maya read the message, her expression shifting from confusion to tired anger. "Lena, come on," she said softly. "You know what this is." "Yeah," Lena answered, setting the vase on the island. "I know." Maya put the phone down and wrapped her arms around her. "This is their loss," she said firmly into Lena's shoulder. "Look at this house. Look at you. You did all of this without them." "That says everything." Lena closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words sink in. It helped. Not enough to erase the hurt, but enough to keep her standing. As they arranged flowers around the living room, small memories rose in Lena's mind like they had been waiting for this day. "Do you remember your 16th birthday?" Maya asked, almost as if she could read her thoughts. Lena gave a short laugh. "The double cake." "Exactly," Maya said. "Your mom called me after, and all she talked about was how upset Bella was that you got a car-shaped cake." Lena could still see it clearly. The chocolate cake with blue frosting she had chosen, and Bella's long, dramatic tantrum because she wanted the exact same design even though her birthday was months away. "I still hear Mom saying, we don't want Bella to feel left out," Lena said quietly. "Then suddenly it was your girl's birthday instead of my day. And Bella blew out your candles," Maya added. "Twice." They both fell silent. Maya finally spoke again. "You know none of that was normal, right?" Lena shrugged. "It was normal for us." She placed the last flowers on the coffee table and stepped back. The room looked beautiful, ready. She wished, just for a moment, that her parents could see it without turning everything into another story about Bella. The pattern had continued long after birthday cakes. On the day Lena graduated high school as valedictorian, she stood on stage in a plain blue gown, speech in hand, scanning the audience for her parents. They sat near the back, Bella slumped dramatically in her chair. After the ceremony, while Lena was still shaking hands with teachers, Bella tugged at Helen's sleeve. "Mom, can we go?" Bella whined. "SAR's pool party started an hour ago. This is boring." Helen had turned to Lena. "We're going to beat the traffic, honey," she'd said. "You can take pictures some other time." Lena had stared at her, stunned. "But my guidance counselor wanted to meet you," she'd protested. "He helped me with my scholarship." Mark had already started walking toward the exit. "We're proud of you," he called over his shoulder without slowing down. "You know that." In the parking lot, Bella hopped into the car, grinning. "Thanks, Mom," she chirped. "You're the best." Lena had stood beside the building for a moment alone, holding her rolled-up diploma and watching other families take photos in clusters of laughter and hugs. That was the day she decided she would go as far away for college as she could manage. At university, 6 hours from home, Lena built a new life from almost nothing. She worked nights at a campus cafe, weekends at a bookstore, and took a few early morning shifts cleaning offices just to keep up with rent and books. When her manager at the cafe once asked, "Parents not helping at all?" Lena had only smiled. "They are busy," she answered. "It's fine. I like working." In truth, work was the only place she felt fully seen. Professors knew her name. Co-workers relied on her. Friends like Maya, who went to a nearby school, visited on some weekends, bringing snacks and loud encouragement. Lena studied business with a focus on real estate, fascinated by the idea that land and old buildings could be turned into places people loved. In her junior year, one of her professors pulled her aside after class. "You've got something, Lena," he said. "You see value where other people see problems. Don't let anyone talk you into playing small." She had smiled, unsure how to answer. No one from her family had ever spoken about her talent like that. The closest thing had been her mother's faint, distant praise. "You were always good with numbers, I guess." Here, at least, Lena felt like her effort meant something real. Her first job out of college was at a small development firm in Charlotte. On her first day, the office was full of older men in stiff shirts and polished shoes who barely looked twice at her. In the first team meeting, one of them joked, "You sure you're old enough to be here?" Lena only opened her laptop and replied, "Old enough to close deals." Over the next 2 years, she proved it. She stayed late going over contracts, visited sites in muddy boots, and learned every step of the process from the ground up. When a senior partner once said, "This project is too complicated for you," she quietly took it, fixed the stalled numbers, and brought in a buyer who paid above asking. "How did you pull that off?" he had asked later. "I listened," Lena replied simply. By 25, she was leading her own small team. By 26, she had saved enough to buy her first rundown house, a sagging place no one wanted. She spent evenings and weekends fixing it herself and sold it a year later for a solid profit. She called her mother, excited. "I just sold my first project," Lena said. "I bought it, redesigned it, everything." Helen's reply was flat. "That's nice, dear. Just make sure you don't forget to enjoy life. Bella is really stressed about her breakup right now." Lena hung up soon after and stared at her phone. It was the last time she shared big news with her parents first. From then on, she told people who actually sounded happy for her. By the time Lena turned 28, she was running a full division at the firm, with 8 people reporting directly to her. Her reputation for turning neglected properties into profitable developments spread quickly through the region. Investors requested meetings with her by name. Agents fought to work on her listings. Still, she went home most nights to silence. Her parents rarely called unless Bella needed something: help with rent, help with a failed relationship, help with a job search she never followed through on. Lena tried not to mind, but the truth was sharp. They called her only when Bella's life had fallen apart again. And every time Lena shared a win, Helen changed the subject. "That's nice," she would say. "But did you hear Bella didn't get the job at the salon? She's very upset." When Lena bought her first luxury home at 30, a renovated cliffside property with breathtaking views, her father didn't respond to the pictures she sent. Bella, however, posted a long message about feeling abandoned by people who think they are better now. Helen forwarded it to Lena with a worried tone, adding, "Try not to do anything that makes your sister feel insecure." That was the day Lena realized something important. It didn't matter how successful she became. In her family's eyes, she would always be the daughter who needed too little and therefore received nothing at all. Still, Lena kept building. At 30, she launched her own real estate development company focused on high-end mountain properties. The business grew faster than she expected. Wealthy clients loved her quiet confidence and the way she explained the story behind each property. Within a year, she had completed 3 major developments and began work on what would become her masterpiece, a 12-acre mountain estate with floor-to-ceiling windows and a design meant to blend completely into the landscape. She spent 2 years shaping every inch of it, working alongside architects, selecting stone, choosing glass, walking the land at sunrise just to imagine how the light would hit the kitchen counter. The day she stepped inside the finished house for the first time, she stood in the great room and felt something she had chased her entire life, a sense of being enough. She wished, quietly, that her parents could see it. Not for praise, but because she wanted to share something beautiful. She debated inviting them long before she even planned a party. In the end, she waited. She wasn't sure if she was protecting her heart or simply accepting reality. But when she finally sent the invitation weeks later, she still hoped, just a little, that this time might be different. Hope, she thought, was a stubborn thing. The filming crew from Homestyle TV arrived 3 days before the housewarming. Their energy filled the quiet home with laughter, cables, and bright lights. Carla, the producer, had walked through the front door and stopped mid-step. "Oh my God," she whispered. "This is unreal." She turned to Lena. "You built this?" Lena smiled slightly. "Brick by brick." They spent hours capturing the home's sweeping views, the handcrafted wood beams, the glass wall that folded open to the mountains. In one interview, the host asked, "What inspired you to build here?" Lena looked out at the valley. "I grew up in a place where nobody saw me," she said softly. "The mountains, they see everything. They hold everything. I wanted to build a home that felt like belonging." The crew fell silent for a moment. Then Carla whispered, "People are going to feel that." That night, Lena almost texted her mom again. Almost. She pictured Helen reading the message while Bella complained in the background about something trivial. She put the phone down. If they cared to know her life, they would have asked long before a camera showed up. Finally, the night of the housewarming arrived. Guests drifted in one by one, their excited voices filling the home. They admired the soaring ceilings, the warm lighting, the view that made everyone gasp. Maya moved through the rooms like a friendly storm, adjusting flowers, handing out drinks, pointing guests toward the terrace. At exactly 8 o'clock, everyone gathered in the media room to watch the premiere of the Homestyle episode. Lena sat in the back, heart pounding. The screen lit up with drone shots of her home. Gold light over the valley, glass shimmering like water, stone walls blending with the trees. People cheered. Maya squeezed her hand. "Look at you," she whispered. "You did that." When Lena appeared on screen, confidently describing her work, the room erupted again. Strangers clapped. Friends cried. Lena stared at the screen and barely recognized the woman speaking, calm, articulate, proud. For a moment, it felt perfect. Almost perfect. Because she couldn't help but imagine her parents watching from her living room, their faces shifting from confusion to pride as they realized who she had become. But they weren't there. They hadn't even bothered to ask why she stopped calling. As the episode ended and applause filled the room, Lena smiled and thanked everyone. Inside, though, she felt a slow ache settle in again. The people who should have been proudest of her had chosen Groceries instead. When the last guests left and the house grew quiet again, Lena stepped onto the deck alone. The mountains were dark now, outlined only by faint moonlight. She wrapped her arms around herself and let the quiet settle. "Why am I never enough for them?" she whispered to the empty air. No answer came, just the soft wind moving through the trees. She pulled out her phone and posted a simple red heart emoji on her social media. No explanation, no caption. People would see it and think it meant celebration. But to Lena, it meant something else entirely. It meant she was done chasing after people who had never bothered to meet her halfway. It meant she was choosing herself, even if it hurt. She went back inside, thanked the last guests, and closed the door behind them. As she walked upstairs, she felt something shifting quietly inside her, like a weight sliding off her shoulders. The child inside her, the one who waited for applause, waited for recognition, waited for love, finally loosened her grip. Lena didn't know what came next, but she knew one thing with absolute clarity. She was done begging to be seen by people determined to look away. If you're still watching, kindly hit the subscribe button, and tell me where you're watching from. The next morning, Lena woke to a phone full of messages, congratulations, questions, interview requests, and excited reactions from people who had watched the Homestyle episode. Her email was already overflowing with potential clients, investors, and industry connections wanting to collaborate. It should have felt overwhelming, but instead it felt like validation. Like years of hard work had finally opened the door she'd been knocking on since she was 18. But mixed in with the buzz, Lena noticed something missing. No call from her father. No text from her mother. No word from Bella. The silence from her family was louder than all the praise combined. She tried not to let it sting, but it did. Around noon, after she had scheduled 2 meetings and responded to a dozen inquiries, her phone rang. The caller ID said Mom. Lena hesitated. A knot formed in her stomach. When she finally answered, Helen didn't sound proud or excited. She sounded annoyed. "Lena," she snapped, "why didn't you tell us about any of this?" Lena blinked, confused. "Tell you about what?" she asked. "About the show," Helen said sharply. "About that mansion. About your face being all over television last night. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it was to have our neighbor Dorothy call us before we even knew?" Lena sat down slowly at the kitchen island, stunned. "Embarrassing?" she repeated. "Mom, I invited you to the housewarming. 3 weeks early. You chose not to come." "You didn't say it was going to be televised," Helen shot back. "The party wasn't televised," Lena said calmly. "The house was featured. And if you had shown up, you would have seen everything with your own eyes." A long silence stretched across the line. Lena could practically hear her mother scrambling for something that made sense. Finally, Helen said, "Your sister is very upset." Of course she is, Lena thought. Bella was always upset about something. Why? Lena asked. Because you've been hiding your success from the whole family, Helen said sternly. She feels betrayed. We all do. Lena laughed, sharp, tired, humorless. Mom, I've invited you to every milestone I've ever had. You skipped every single one. You never came to my graduations. You never came to my award ceremonies. When I bought my first house, you told me Bella's breakup was more important. You never cared enough to show up. That's not true, Helen insisted weakly. We've always supported you. Name one thing, Lena said quietly. Just one. The silence that followed was painful. Eventually, Helen sighed. You've always been very independent, she said. You didn't need us. Lena closed her eyes. I needed you, Mom. I begged for you in 1,000 small ways you never saw. Her voice softened. But you were always too busy with Bella to notice. That's unfair, Helen snapped. Your sister has struggles, real struggles, you don't understand. Lena felt her frustration rising again. Her struggle is that she's never been asked to grow up. You do everything for her. She's 28, Mom. She can buy her own groceries. I don't appreciate your tone, Helen said sharply. Your father and I have always done our best. This, Lena said slowly, is your best. The call ended a minute later with no apology, no acknowledgement, nothing but the same cold dismissal Lena had been swallowed by her whole life. But something was different this time. Lena didn't feel small. She didn't feel guilty. She felt clear. She didn't call back. She didn't send a soft text to smooth the edges. She simply put her phone down and let the silence stay. 3 days later, Bella called. Lena stared at her sister's name on the screen for a long moment before answering, already bracing herself. You really think you're something now, don't you? Bella said without greeting. Hello, Bella, Lena replied calmly. You embarrassed Mom, Bella continued. She cried because of you. She said you called her a bad parent. That isn't what I said, Lena replied. You think you're better than us, Bella snapped. With your fancy house and your TV interviews. Some of us actually struggle, Lena. Lena took a slow breath. Bella, my life isn't about you, she said quietly. Oh please, Bella said. Now everyone in town is comparing us. Do you know how that feels? Lena actually laughed. You're upset because I succeeded. Bella went silent for a moment. Lena continued. I've never once asked you to compete with me. I've never asked you to be me. If anything, I've wished we could both succeed. You're so self-righteous, Bella muttered. And you're angry because my life forces you to look at your own choices, Lena replied. Bella hung up without another word. Lena set her phone on the table and let out a long, steady breath. The calls, first from her mother, then from Bella, felt like the final pieces of a puzzle she had been staring at for 31 years. Her mother wasn't angry because Lena had kept secrets. She was angry because Lena had moved on, quietly, successfully, without needing her. Bella wasn't upset because Lena had wronged her. She was upset because Lena's success made her excuses impossible. And her father? He hadn't said a word, which was perhaps the clearest message of all. For the first time in her life, Lena didn't feel the urge to fix the situation. She didn't want to chase them. She didn't want to shrink herself so they would feel comfortable again. Instead, she felt something new, something powerful. Freedom. She realized that the girl she used to be, the one who waited for approval that never came, was gone. And now, Lena Hayes finally had room in her life for people who saw her, valued her, and chose her. She walked to the large window overlooking the mountains, the landscape stretching wide and endless. For once, she did not wonder if her family would ever change. She wondered where she would go next. A week later, Lena received a message that surprised her. It was from her Aunt Meredith, her mother's older sister. They hadn't spoken in years, not out of conflict, but because family gatherings always felt like walking on eggshells. Meredith's message was short. I saw the episode. You were brilliant. There are things you should know about your mother. Call me when you're ready. Curiosity pulled at Lena. That Saturday, they met at a quiet cafe in Asheville. Meredith arrived looking nervous but determined. After a few polite exchanges, she sighed heavily. Your mother and I grew up in a house where love was uneven, she began. Our mother adored me. She barely noticed your mom. When you were born, you looked exactly like our mother. Same eyes, same expressions. It triggered everything your mom thought she'd buried. Lena froze. So she punished me for looking like her? No, Meredith said gently. Not punished. But she overcorrected. She poured everything into Bella because she swore she would never make a child feel the way she felt. But she didn't realize she was doing the same thing, just in reverse. Lena sat back, absorbing the revelation. It didn't erase the pain, but it explained the shape of it. And sometimes, understanding was its own kind of release. Months passed, and life settled into a new, steadier rhythm. The Homestyle episode continued to boost Lena's career, bringing in clients from across the country. Her company expanded, hiring new architects, designers, and analysts. She traveled for conferences, gave interviews, and slowly became a recognizable figure in the world of luxury development. Her family remained distant, but the silence felt less like rejection now and more like clarity. She no longer waited for calls that never came. Instead, she leaned into the relationships that truly nourished her. Her team, her clients, her friends, and especially Maya, who showed up for her in ways her family never had. But life has a way of bringing moments full circle. At the grand opening of Lena's newest mountain resort, a stunning, eco-friendly retreat perched along the ridge, she stood greeting guests when she suddenly noticed a familiar figure by the entrance. Her mother. Alone. Helen approached slowly, her shoulders tense, her expression unsure. Lena, she said softly. May I talk to you? Lena nodded and led her to the terrace overlooking the valley. For the first time in years, Helen wasn't defensive. She wasn't dismissive. She seemed human. I made mistakes, Helen said, voice trembling. More than I can count. I can't fix the past, but I'm here now. And I'm proud of you. Lena didn't answer right away. The words were decades late, but they were real. And real was enough to start something new, even if slowly. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in gold and rose, Lena stood quietly on the terrace long after her mother walked back inside. The air was cool, soft, steady. Everything she had built, every house, every deal, every step forward, had brought her to this exact moment. For years, she had believed her worth depended on her family's recognition. But standing there, surrounded by guests celebrating her newest creation, she finally understood the truth. Her value had never been theirs to give. Her success wasn't revenge. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a message meant to make anyone hurt. It was simply the life she had created despite the hurt. Lena breathed deeply, letting the wind settle around her like an old friend. She felt grounded, seen, by herself most of all. Whatever came next, with her mother, with Bella, with the world, would come on her terms. She turned back toward the warm glow of the resort, ready to join the celebration, ready to step into the future she had built with her own hands. For the first time in her life, Lena Hayes walked forward without looking back. And that was enough. Tell me where you're watching from. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it.